Want to change the game? Put yourself on another level. Operate at a frequency so very few do. Then get out of your head. That's right, your head is the absolute worst place to be. Yes, your intellect is good when it comes to a lot of things, but living your life guided by your spirit, your intuition, your most authentic self requires you to feel your way through life, not think it. So many of us are taught to listen to our heads, not our hearts. But as far as I can see, all that's gotten us is a lot of overanalyzing and overwhelm. So do something radical. Take your head out of the equation from time to time and see how effortless the right things fall into place. The things that are most aligned with who you are deep down. The things that make you happy and no one else. Free up your mind and free up some space for your spirit to live. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Intentional Living with Courtney Myers. I'm your host, the founder and creator of the Intentional Home and Living, Courtney Myers. And today we are getting out of our heads. What a radical concept. I know a lot of us have been taught growing up to use your head, use your head, use your head. I know I was as a child, but there's so much more when it comes to living a magical and miraculous and spirit-led life. You have to lead with your heart. You have to feel your way into what is right for you specifically. If you are always in your head, you are constantly going to be thinking about what other people may think, what you should do. You are going to fall into a state of ruminating. And that just makes you stagnant. That gets you nowhere. Your head is absolutely the worst place you can live. I know this by experience. I am constantly in my head. It is a daily struggle for me to get out of my head. It is something I am intentionally working on every day, as I know that there is a better way to live. It is something my mentor and I talk about regularly. It is something I've gone through lots of therapy to deal with. I am even on medication to help me get out of my head because I have a tendency to overthink, overanalyze, and just continue that process over and over again, not allowing me to move past it, not allowing me to take the actions or to truly live in peace and harmony and comfort. When you are stuck in your head, things can be extremely tedious. It can be so overwhelming. It can be so all-consuming, and it can really just halt any of your ideas, your desires, the direction you want to go. And not only that, it can really affect who you are, how you feel, and the relationships you hone. Where this really became apparent for me was quite a few years ago when I was in therapy and I was so focused on finding my relationship. I would get in my head thinking about whatever scenario was going on with the person I was dating, and it would become so all-consuming that I couldn't sleep, that I couldn't function properly, that I would just be debilitated practically. That's why after a year or two of really trying to work with these thoughts and how to manage my mind, that I decided to go on a little bit of medication, which has totally taken the edge off and which has helped me kind of redirect my thoughts and not fall into that rumination state. But medication isn't for everyone, and I'm not pushing that. It has just helped me. Once I did get on it, I thought, God, why didn't I have this sooner when I was in high school and college? It could have really helped me just chill the you-know-what out so that I could truly live in peace and from a place of inner knowing and inner guidance as opposed to my head. Now, this isn't to say using your mind, using your head is a bad thing. Using your mind and using your head in conjunction with your inner self, with your inner knowing, with your spirit is where we really want to be. We want to use our intellect to help enhance our intuition. We want to use our intellect to help enhance our inner knowing, that inner guidance we get. We want to use our intellect to help direct those downloads we get from spirit, that we get from our most authentic selves, to put things into place and to put things into action. So when you are using your head and your heart together, that is a winning combination. But you have to know how to get out of your head first so that you can get that download, so that you can get that inner guidance, so that you can feel or hear your intuition, and then you can take action. This topic actually came up for me a couple weeks ago when I sat down to record that week's podcast. And I was so stuck in my head that day, I couldn't put two sentences together. It's what spurred me on to take a 2-week break from the podcast and from all work, which I have talked about. Because sometimes you need to take a break to get out of your head. Sometimes you need to switch up the game. You need to switch up the scenario. You need to switch up your scene. You need to do something different. DSD, as Amy Porterfield calls it. I took her subscribed boot camp and she talked all about DSD, doing something different. It really will push you out of your limit to do something new so that you can change up whatever is going on within you, that you can cause a disturbance, shall I say, in the force. So I had to take a 2-week break because I was so in my head. I needed to step back and allow myself to breathe and to process the thoughts that were going on so that I can come back and really be guided by my spirit. And you may need to do something like that in your life too. It is really an art to learn how to balance your intellect and your mind and your feelings and quiet what is going on up in your head so that you really can listen to what is going on in your heart, in your soul, from your spirit. But like I said, so much of the time we are taught to use our head, use your head, use your head. Growing up, that it may seem foreign to you. It may seem like a foreign concept to lead with your feelings, to lead with your emotions, to lead with your heart. Most people shy away from that. Most people shut that part of them down. And it's really doing a disservice, I think, to society and to us as a whole. I don't think we are truly all living our happiest, most fulfilled lives because we are using our head nonstop to do what we are supposed to do. We are doing what intellect tells us to do. We are doing what society tells us to do. We are doing what is quote unquote smart. And when you take your head out of the game sometimes and you lead with your heart and you lead with your inner knowing, you are going to sometimes do things that are looked at as crazy or different or unconventional, maybe even a little bit risky. But if something from within is telling you to take that leap or go for it, then it is for you. You must do it to truly live an intentional life. You will be at your happiest, you will be at your best when you are passionate about something, when you are leading with something that comes from within, when you have a fire inside of you that is the driving force of anything you are doing. Because when you lead with your head, you are living such a linear life. It's almost like your life is a checklist. Do this, this, and then you will be complete. You know how I know that? Because that is what I used to live. I used to live that life. I used to live that linear life. Like I said, I'm still working on getting out of my head on a daily basis. And you know what? That is completely easier said than done. So let's talk about some different ways of getting out of your head and getting back into your body, getting back into your spirit, getting back into your inner knowing so that you can lead more guided by your heart. One surefire way to do that is to move. Get outside and move. When you're outside, the fresh air, the sunlight just kind of recharges you and allows you to get more present. And when you're moving, you don't have as much time to be in your head, to think. I know my husband does a morning walk almost every day. And for the longest time, he would listen to music or podcasts during these walks. So when he did that, he was continuously in his head. He was thinking the whole time. He was absorbing. He was taking in more information. He wasn't necessarily being present. While he was outside walking and recharging from the sun and the fresh air, his mind was still working overtime. It was after we moved to Tennessee that he took the podcast, that he took the music out of the game, and he started walking with the intent solely to be present and to communicate with his inner self and the spirit. And that is where a lot of his guidance has come in. That is where he started to truly connect and move forward in new and unique ways that have changed the course of everything in our life for the better. Now, I find it quite difficult to do this. I am not as good getting outside and being present when I'm there. My mind, like I said, is consistently racing over things all the time. Now, while getting outside and getting the sunlight is a complete recharge for me, to shut down my mind, I have to try other things. One of my go-to tools for getting out of my mind is to take a bath. I am a Pisces, so maybe that has something to do with it. I think it's by immersing myself in the water that I can most let go. It's where I get some of my best downloads. It's funny, years and years ago when my little sister got married, I was the maid of honor and I had to write the speech for her wedding, and I was terrified of what to say in front of all these people about my sister and her husband. And I took a bath one night after work, and it was just instant. I had to jump out, get a pen and paper, and write down my speech. I literally wrote my speech in maybe 2 minutes. It just came to me because I was able to free my mind and let in spirit and speak from my heart. I wasn't thinking about writing my speech. I wasn't in my head about it. I was just washing off my day. And in comes spirit, in comes my inner knowing, in comes my inner guidance with all the words I wanted to say. It wasn't about what I should say. It wasn't about what was right to say. It was about how I felt and what I could express. So those are 2 tools to getting out of your head. Another tool that my mentor Sonia has taught me is to laugh. Humor. Humor is one of the biggest connections you will ever find to your spirit and your inner self. Laughing, watching a funny show, doing something lighthearted, something even like dancing can help you connect. It changes up your energy. It changes up the frequency. It's almost like it shakes up your mind so that your body or something from within is in the lead. When you're laughing, when you're truly laughing, it comes from within. It's like that belly laugh that kids have. It's so amazing. Have you ever heard such an infectious laugh that you just start to laugh with the person, even though you don't know what they're laughing about? It's that kind of thing. It's this energetic shift of happiness and connection and joy. Your inner guidance thrives in joy. Look at a child. They are not using their head to make their decisions throughout the day for the most part. They are exploring. They are being guided. They are being led by this inner force. They don't know what it's like to be in their heads, overanalyzing and overthinking things, the what-if scenarios of anything that could happen. They just instinctively do and act. And they are truly the most connected example I could ever give. Being a mom of 2 very young kids, it has been extremely eye-opening to see how spiritually connected children are. I know I bring up children all the time, but truly they have the answers. I was completely in my head last night. After dinner, my husband took the kids upstairs to play in our bonus room, and I was doing the dishes. And although I was using my hands and in action, my mind wasn't present. I was thinking about other things, and I couldn't get out of my head. But once I finished the dishes and went up to join my family, I was able to reconnect because they were having a dance party and they were laughing and having the best time ever. And I couldn't help but join in. So getting outside, fresh air, walks, a bath, dancing, laughing, all amazing tools to help you get out of your head. Another wonderful tool for getting out of your head is breath work. Deep breaths in general can help you release energy from within. It can help release whatever is stuck in your mind, and it can help you bring life back into your core, into your heart, into your gut, where these feelings, where your inner knowing comes from. Now, one of my biggest breakthroughs ever came through when I was going through breathwork certification training. It was a 3-day intensive weekend, and I cannot begin to explain the change and the energetic shift I felt afterwards, let alone the inspired actions I was able to start implementing in my life. It truly was the catalyst to this next stage of my life. It was the catalyst to this next chapter. It literally breathed life into my spirit and into my soul, allowing me to reconnect and truly start to move in the direction of my greater good. Stop using my head. Stop telling myself stories. Stop playing scenarios over and over again and to start living a little bit more guided. Breathwork in general allows you to re-regulate your whole nervous system, which is definitely impacted when you are stuck in your head. So if you are struggling to get out of your head with some of the more simple solutions like walking, being outside, taking a bath or a shower, dancing or watching a show, maybe look into doing some breath work. It doesn't even have to be fancy. You can breathe on your own. 3 deep breaths in, 3 deep breaths out. Every mentoring session I undergo with my teacher, that is how we begin. But doing an actual breathwork session guided by someone that can help you will be life-changing for you. It truly will. The patterns of breath and breathing in these sessions really makes you focus on something other than what is going on in your head and really makes you become present and in your body. And I think that is the biggest part about getting out of your head, is really about getting back into your body so that you can feel, so that you can be guided on that level. I know one of the terms is to lead with your heart, but it really is to lead with your body. It's to feel inspired. Inspired meaning being led by your spirit, breathing life into your spirit. That's what we're talking about. That's why just taking deep breaths or embarking on breath work is so powerful. You are literally breathing life back into your spirit, back into your soul. And at the end of the day, when we can connect back to our spirit and our soul, that is when life really starts to get interesting. But I can't stop there. Now, I know I've already talked about some of these things being favorites of mine to get out of my head, but this last tool I almost forgot to mention, and it literally is the biggest: journaling. When you pick up a pen and you put it to paper, something physical happens, just like when you're doing breath work. You begin to move that energy of whatever is consuming you out of your body, out of your mind, and onto the paper, releasing it from your energetic field. That action of just letting go, clearing your mind, and automatic writing. You don't necessarily think about what you're saying. You can write the same word over and over again. You can make a to-do list. You can just write gibberish. It doesn't really matter. But the action of writing things down or writing out whatever you're thinking or feeling or ruminating on will help to release it from your hold. It will help to release it from your mind and get it out of your head and onto that paper. It's such a huge tool. It's a symbolic tool of letting go, as well as an energetic tool of making it happen. I've been doing this since I was a little kid. I remember as a little girl always having these little spats with my 2 best friends. There was 3 of us, which is always a recipe for disaster. 2 are always going to gang up on one in some way, shape, or form. And I remember when it was my turn to be ganged up on, how emotionally draining and upsetting it would be for me. And I remember going into my room, grabbing a piece of paper and instinctively just writing a letter to whichever one of the girls was hurting my feelings at the moment. And I never even sent the letter. I just remember writing it to get those feelings out. It was instinctual. I knew to do that. And to this day, whenever anything is bothering me, I head to my journal. When I want to create something, I head to my journal. When I want to just get in a creative mood, when I want to manifest something new, when I want to ease my mind or get out of my head, I go to my journal. I could do a whole podcast on the benefits of journaling alone, and I probably will. But that is another big tool that I almost forgot to mention that you need to keep in your back pocket. So this week, I challenge you. My intention of the week this week is to help you get out of your head. I want you to take note this week when you find yourself going into your head, when you find yourself unable to shake a thought, or you find yourself ruminating on something. And I want you to choose one of the tools we've talked about and try and shake it up. Go for a walk, take a shower, take a bath, write in your journal, start to practice some breath work. The pattern that I have been taught is 2 quick breaths in, 1 long breath out, and doing that over and over again very quickly. Now, there's a little bit more to it, which is why I offer guided breathwork sessions. But those things alone will help you take your focus off of what's going on in your head and help bring you back into your body. So this week, when you find yourself in your head, make note of it, acknowledge it, and then take action to move it, to change it, to shift your focus back into your spirit, into your soul. And then see how you feel afterwards, because I bet whatever you were overanalyzing, overthinking, ruminating on will seem very far away, will seem so much less important, will be so much less consuming. It doesn't mean that your thoughts are going to go away. It doesn't mean that whatever you were worried about or focusing on disappears. It just takes some of the intensity of what's going on in your mind away, and it allows you to look at things with a new perspective, with a new inspired idea. You may come up with, let's say you're ruminating or thinking about a problem in your life. When you take that step back and you allow yourself to get back into your body, you don't know what your spirit is going to offer up. You may all of a sudden have some bright, brilliant new plan of attack or new idea or new opportunity that comes into play because you're not just using your mind to figure it out. That phrase, figure it out, is the plague of me. I constantly say, I just need to figure this out. And my teacher, Sonia, is always telling me, stop figuring it out. You don't know everything there is to know about any situation, about any scenario, even about yourself. Let your spirit do the work. Whenever you go to a place in your mind, whenever you are in your head trying to figure it out, you are actually doing the absolute wrong thing. You need to do the absolute opposite. You need to shake it up, get in your body, take a breath, take a moment, and let your spirit take the wheel. Let your spirit take the reins. It will be life-changing. I know in the times that I actually have allowed myself to do this, magic happens. I promise you. It is not all the time that I can get there. It is very hard for me to get out of my head a lot of the time. That is why, like I said, I am on medication to help me get out of my head, which I have heard is actually very common for people who are quite intuitive, who are empaths, to have a lot of anxiety and to have trouble getting out of their heads. So I know it's not super uncommon, and that's why I'm really open to speaking about it. It's just something I deal with. But really, when I do allow myself to let go, and when I really do allow myself to connect and go inward, my mind is always blown by the results. So promise me this week, I'm sure you will find yourself in your head about something. It could be minute. Do it. Get out of your head. Take the tools we've talked about and start to connect and just see what happens. Start with something that may seem insignificant but is bothering you, just to get the results, just to get the confirmation that this works, and just to see how it all plays out. And then you can graduate onto bigger and bigger things that tend to bother you or that become all-consuming, because we all have them. We all have things in our life that consume our thoughts or worry us in some way, shape, or form. And if you can't seem to get out of your head by those simple steps we talked about earlier, just give yourself a moment to take a break like I did. Take a couple weeks off of whatever your problem is, whatever you're dealing with, so that you can just start to focus on you again. And once you can start to do that, you can start to implement these tools to reconnect to yourself, to reconnect to your soul. At the end of the day, that is our goal. That is our ultimate goal for living an intentional life. It's to live connected, to live authentically, to live led by our spirit, and to really understand who we each individually are on a soul level. This is just another layer to it, getting out of your head and connecting to your soul. So thank you so much for joining me this week. I am so happy to talk to you about this topic that obviously plays out in my head all the time. Make sure to subscribe and follow the podcast to stay up to date on our weekly releases. We release new episodes every Wednesday on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. And as always, please check out the Intentional Home and Living at CourtneyMyers.com. That's CourtneyMeyers.com. On there, you will find all the tools and resources for how to work with me or even get a guided breathwork session, which we are now offering. And stay tuned. I'm really excited. Over the next couple weeks, we are going to start having conversations and interviews with a lot of people who have had a big impact on my spiritual journey and who are doing some really great, amazing things in the world of connecting to your most authentic self. I'm really excited about these conversations, and I'm really excited to start bringing more voices into our community and onto this podcast so that we can continue to learn and grow together. So make sure you tune into the Intentional Home and Living on social media, because that's where we'll do all of our announcements for who's coming up and what we're going to be talking about. I'm really, really excited about this. Thank you once again for listening to Intentional Living with Courtney Myers. We'll see you next week. Bye.